But yeah, today's video I'm super excited for. I'm really excited for this stream. I really want to get your guys' feedback. This all kind of came together last night. And this is going to be a lot of fun, I think, moving forward. And this is something that kind of fulfills all the needs that I've been wanting to find. Ever since we got all the benchmarks done, I've been kind of struggling figuring out where I wanted things to go. We know how everything performs, everything that's pretty much worth talking about. So it's like, bleh, there's not too many other avenues to go down. But then last night it hit me. So I'm super excited to share that with you. And then, yeah, I just kind of want to talk to you guys about parts and PCs and gaming and fun. Today is all about the fun and just making, choosing a different path. And this is largely or mostly due to the fact that I was watching Jay's 2 cents video last night, which a lot of you guys are like, it was a bad video. Kind of, but it sparked a good idea in me. So clearly the video had some value. Now I went ahead and emailed Jay. So if you guys are like, oh, he's not going to like the thumbnail, I emailed him. He knew that I'm not, going after him or nothing. I actually want to thank him for making that video. It was a fun video. It was just a fun, silly video. But he basically just took an old i7 4770K and motherboard and was like, let's just see if it still does the thing. And he had some fun with it. To my surprise, considering the settings he was using, which we'll talk about, which I know many of you guys did see it and you're like, cringe. But the performance that came out of it was still pretty good, using an RTX 2080 Ti. And I was like, well, if that's what you're getting with this setup in that configuration, completely unoptimized in any sort of way, I was just curious. I'm like, how much faster can we go? And that literally just led me down the path of, well, maybe we should do some reactionary content. And then I was like, well, how much do these things cost? They're actually very cheap. So I'm like, why don't I just go buy them? And then I was like, all right, boys, we always talk about competing here on the channel, which, by the way, if you don't know, there's a couple ways you can compete. Number one, you can either just keep up with us, and this is going to be a new way of competing. I do have links to the parts down below. You can compete as well when I try to beat Jay's numbers, which I don't see that being any issue, but it might be fun if he comes back at us with, a tweak setup as well, and then we can go back and forth. And if you want to join in, you can compete that way, or you can go ahead, anybody who does a $100 or their equivalent in their currency, you instantly compete, you're always right, and you're the most handsome person in the world. So there's 2 ways to be competitive now here on the channel. But I think that that's going to be kind of fun. So I'm super excited to get this. The parts are cheap. Besides the graphics card, that does still cost a little bit, the 2080 Ti. But, the CPU, I think I got for like $60. I got the M-Power motherboard, which I thought was going to be very expensive, under $100. You can get a cheaper, Z87 board, whatever. It'll be within margin of error. RAM, I'm still waiting on. I have some offers out there, and we'll see how that goes. But I did pick up another 2080 Ti, and I got that for $380. So we'll go check out Jay's video a little bit, see what he did, what numbers he was getting. I'll probably, actually, let me pull up a notepad. I'm going to write them down. And then once we get the parts in, we will put it together, set it up, and see how far it can go. So, yeah, I like that little part. Yeah, just kind of puts things in perspective. So it had like 1 billion transistors, and modern CPUs are like many times that. So just puts things in perspective pretty good. But anyways, he's got the M-Power. I believe this is the Z790 or Z97 motherboard. I went ahead and got the Z87 version coming. So I want to go ahead and compare to that. Let me get to the part where he talks about the RAM. I should be able to hear him now. So basically, he's just talking about the parts. You've got the M-Power, the 4770K, but I really want to get to the part where he talks about the RAM, and this has really got me kind of...
I sold it all. It's DDR3, which I guess at the yard sale, I got rid of all of it, and I thought I kept a stick behind, or a kit behind. So, funny story, Amazon actually has DDR3 sets in stock, 16 gigabyte kits at 1600 megahertz. I was hoping it was gonna be 1866, but it's not. 1600, whatever, that's fine.
So 1600 is fine. It's like saying DDR4 3200 is fine, which you guys know that that's not true. But I guess it's better than nothing. It's technically the rated spec. But what I found interesting was he's like, I was really hoping it was 1866, which also isn't very good. So, I mean, it's been a long time, probably since Jay's touched a DDR3 system. Plus, he's just dicking around with the thing, so he doesn't really care. But let's see what he ended up with
for $16.99. So actually, just over $1 a gigabyte, which I find hilarious considering the fact there was a while there DDR3 became very expensive because as RAM becomes obsolete, it becomes scarce, which means the price goes up. So that'll be here later today, which means I can at least get the system built.
All right, so we're using basically the second worst RAM configuration possible. The only way it would probably be worse is if you went with 1333 for some odd reason and underspec the system. But with that in mind, by the way, he's also using 2080 Ti Founders Edition. I doubt he bothered tuning that because, well, the cooler is crap and the power limits on it are pretty low. But keep all that in mind because his results were actually halfway interesting. So we start off with, I think it was Cinebench. Sorry, I'm trying to skip ahead here so we can find it. He does talk about the thermal paste. So he didn't delid. I'm not going to delid mine either at first.
Yeah, absolutely. It's 61 degrees. It hit 62 for a minute, or for a second, but 61. And it dropped down to 3.7 all-core, which is kind of interesting considering this temperature. You would think that that would stay boosted at 3.9. Okay, so we got a 4,435. What'd you say the Steam Deck was?
4436.
Okay. So.
See, that's pretty handy information, though. So a stock 4770K equals the Steam Deck. Pretty interesting right there. Now, granted, obviously the power draw is different, but it kind of puts some perspective on the Steam Deck for you. So I found that useful information.
1 point different from a Steam Deck. So essentially, if you sub a 4770K, you have a Steam Deck. So that shows you just how far AMD's like efficiency. It's 15 watts. It's 4 gigahertz all core. So we just picked watts versus 84. All right, I'm gonna restart the system though because
there's an important bit here.
With OC Genie going, if that's gonna help us in any way. So with the OC Genie on, now it's 4 gigahertz all core. So
all right, so for overclocking, we got the OC Genie. So if you guys don't know what that is when you go into the BIOS and you just say overclock to whatever, 4 gigahertz, right? And the motherboard just does whatever it needs to do to make that happen. And usually you're overvolting the balls out of your CPU for stability reasons. So yeah, he didn't even waste any time tuning this thing. We all know since Sandy Bridge, they all do minimum 4.4 to 4.5 gigahertz without even touching voltage. So we're literally running this thing at worst case scenario here. But still, like I said, the results are halfway interesting. So I was like, okay, so this is the worst of the worst of the worst.
We just picked up 300 megahertz. We also picked up 12 degrees Celsius. That does show how far the CPU coolers have come in 10 years, though, just because of the fact that this would have been guaranteed up into the high 80s, low 90s before. And that was the biggest complaint. I think 95C might have been the max back then. So it's still doing its looping test. It's hit 77, but that one was now a 4813. Wow, so it gained almost 400 points. It's actually...
All right, so let me write that down. So for his Cinebench, we got Cinebench, R23, we have 4813. All right, Jay, I'm taking notes.
Phil does have...
Oh, he did do Time Spy. I forgot that one.
174 milliseconds per frame. All right, so we got a 49 3D2.
3D2?
We got a 4932, yeah, combined score. Graphics score.
All right, so combined is 4932. What we got? G score 6881, and then CPU 1894. All right, cool.
60.
Okay, so that's Time Spy Extreme. He said he was doing regular ones, but that's Extreme. Okay. Alrighty, cool. I don't play 3D Mark, so I have no idea. Good, bad, indifferent, whatever.
881, 6836 was our original score. So there you go. A fully synthetic.
Behind that.
That's why I'm laughing, because the fact that this is so close to it.
Yeah, and it needs
Taking longer to load the test. It's a common misconception that you're supposed to see 100% utilization on your GPU. Typically, you'll see anything between 95 to 100 on a fully GPU-bound scenario. Under 95,
how much you want to bet he'd be fully GPU bound at 4K, which would make that a perfect pairing? He's running 1080p, so like a lot of people do take that out of context. What you got to do is look at the FPS. I'm guessing this is 87 FPS. 87 FPS at 4K. If it could hold that, that'd be pretty damn good.
there's some reasons. Below 90 in the 80s and 70s like you're seeing here, this is the GPU waiting on the CPU to process the frames that are being rendered. So
Jay was informed that I was gonna talk about his stuff today, so if he wants to DCMA me, he can, but this is obviously fair use, and he was forewarned. Plus, I'm not bashing him, I'm just critiquing, and we're gonna see how much performance he left on the table. And that's, I think that's gonna be pretty fun. And you can do it too. Affiliate links are down below if you want to build your own system, like Jay has. And that I'll be doing here shortly.
Telltale signs right now of CPU bottleneck. So as the test finishes here, the 2080 Ti and the 12900K had an average frame rate of 139 to our.
Oh, I was like, how's this 139? Okay, he's talking about the 12900K. So yeah, let's say I can get an extra 30% on this. Look at how close that would actually be. And I have a feeling I could probably get somewhere around there. 25 to 30%. That's my thought process. He's saying 30% less performance. I think I can make up a lot of that with this GPU. Of course, if you're using a 4090, this thing goes zoom, and this thing, well, won't. But, all right, so we got 97 AVG. And does he have minimums on here somewhere? I know they have it. If you guys can see it, let me know in the chat what the minimum is.
97. So check this out. GPU bound.
Okay, CPU game. So 64. 64 on the minimum. For min. Okay.
0% GPU bound. That is because of the fact that every single frame was waiting on the CPU, is what this is saying. But the point is, if you paired a 2080 Ti with this game and this setup, you're paying for some performance that is not there.
Which is a point that I already kind of disproved. If you're running at 4K, I bet you that this GPU is going to be complete or mostly bound in most titles. Now, granted, this is an old game now. This is a 2018 game, which means that the 2013 CPU, 2013. The 2014 was the 90K. But anyways, so when this came out, it was only 5 years old. It's 10 years old now. So games have doubled in the time length that this has been out. So this is this is gonna be one of the better case scenarios, I would imagine.
Or you're not getting, if the idea is that you're gonna be money at that point, which is why I have the
minimum CPU.
What are the minimum CPU requirements for Cyberpunk?
This part was kind of funny because this will happen. If you use a what's technically an under-spec CPU, you will get the. It's going to take us forever to get started. Bits.
A very CPU intensive title. Well, it's trying to.
You know, now that I think about it, we didn't check the minimum CPU.
What are the minimum CPU requirements for Cyberpunk? Let me see. We might be under it.
I ran a bunch of benchmarks last year. I didn't even bother showing you guys because it just doesn't work. But I was trying the i5 6600K 4-core 4-thread. That's a real thing, and that happens a lot. And it's a lot worse than that too.
Core i5 3570K or less CPU. You're right. We're just trying to see right now kind of what happens. Initial loading screen was bad. Now you might be asking yourself, Jay, why are you doing 1080p?
Okay, so was he at high? Let me take a look. That went by pretty fast. Come on, it's like right in between here. Stupid thing. It looked like it said high. Okay. No, he's got ultra. Okay. Just wanted to make sure because I want the the same settings.
You might be asking yourself, Jay, why are you doing 1080p? Because if you went higher resolution, then it would be less CPU. You're right. We're just trying to see right now kind of what happens in the 1080p scenario. Because I also think if people are looking at 10-year-old platform, they may not have a 1440p panel. You know, 1080p is, you can have them now for like $100 or cheaper. So the average FPS here was 81.
All right, so Cyberpunk, we got an average of 82. We'll round up. Minimum of 28. That's pretty rough. Now remember, that's like the absolute lowest frame. Just say 29. All right, there we go. So yeah,
87, so 82 average. That's actually better than.
now that minimum frame rate is going to be a bit of a problem, which you will see. He does a little bit of gameplay footage. We'll take a look at that. But this is all the information that we needed. He goes ahead and uses a 3050 for some reason. I guess to show that it's a more comparable pairing for 1080p. But I would just bump up the res or throw on ray tracing or something at 1080p if you have a combination like this. All right, anyways, let's, there we go. Get a little bit of gameplay so you guys can see it.
There's a 4248. It stutters.
You can see.
Nailed it. Nailed it. We're good. Oh, I got a warrant.
I think that doesn't look too bad.
It's actually not that bad. Oh, I know. I'm being such a jerk right now. But that's what you're supposed to do in Cyberpunk. But based on the price that you can get a 3080 Ti for now,
2080.
or 2080 Ti, it might be worth it just to.
It is. That's why there's an affiliate link down below. If you're running like a 1080 Ti or something, the 2080 Ti is a monstrous jump. Especially if you're going to push the balls out of it.
Get it
now
and then have it.
CPU later.
Yeah, see, I'm having.
But alrighty, we'll wrap it up with Jay's videos there. I do have a link to this if you want to watch the whole thing down in the video description. Please do so after the stream, of course. Let me save Jay's settings before I lose those. Because I am prone for not saving things. Jay's thing. We'll go with that. Cool. All right, switch you guys back on over. All right, so those are the numbers that he got. And like I said, I'm fairly certain using just the DDR3 1600, probably just XMP. And what was that? That's C9 was kind of the common stuff. It's like 3200 C16 stuff. He showed it briefly in the video. We didn't look at it. So I'm just going to assume it's probably that. So that's not very good. So there's going to be a lot of room on the memory to go up. Now, I'm not going to use the 2400 C10 stuff. I don't think. I might get a kit of those just because. But I'm going to use not the second fastest kit, but the third fastest kit because they're so much cheaper. And I think the performance difference is going to be a little bit less. So my recommendation would be if you want to pick something up, get a 2400 C11 kit. You can raise the voltage a bit, maybe throw a fan on it. You might get to the C10, if you get real lucky. If not, it's not going to make that big of a difference. Just tune in your sub timings. Yeah, so those are like $50, 40, $50 for those. There's a couple of the C10 kits out there for like 70, 80, but then they go all the way to like $120, $200. So like they get really stupid if you're not one of the first people that buy them. So that's why I'm not really going to recommend anybody like faff with that. I want to show people like for like 40, $50, cheapo RAM, what you can do. But anyways, he went with like the ultra budget basement, like you rip open a garbage can, pull out RAM. I think we can get a lot of extra performance just from that. His GPU is not tuned, even though the CPU is going to be the bottleneck most of the time. It's not the bottleneck all the time. So I'm assuming it's not tuned because it's a Founders, and honestly, why bother with the setup the way it was? So you might get a little bit of extra there. I don't think that there's going to be a whole lot of extra headroom we get out of the graphics card, but we'll go ahead and push that anyway because we know that there's a lot more room in it. And then, the CPU itself? You just did the OC Genie going to 4 gigahertz. You're getting 4.4 at least, even with the TIM. So that's 10% minimum. And then Dowdy touched, I don't know what it does with the ring clock. So you can probably get more than 10% just going to 4.4 when you bump up the ring. And then if I can get close to, let's say, like 4.8, now that's 20% just right there. And I think there's at least 20% on the RAM. So theoretically, I think 30 to 40% performance uplift might be doable. And then, like he showed you with the 2080 Ti when he tested the 12900K, that's only like a 30% gap. So yeah, I think it'd be pretty fun. We'll check it out. I'm super interested. Hopefully Jay watches when everything comes in and we do it, and maybe he goes ahead and he tunes it up and we can see what he can do. And like I said, if any other YouTubers out there, I know a lot of you guys watch this content. If you want to jump in, be my guest. Parts list are in the description. If you guys just want to jump in as well, you can do so just on the sidelines. Like I said, I just wrote down some numbers. He did Time Spy. Glad to know that it's extreme. I was going to throw that in there. So we have 4 numbers I can directly compare to Jay. I'm also going to throw in, like I said, the Modern Warfare 2 canned benchmark. And then I'm going to pick out one more game. I'm going to, like I said, probably Forspoken or Returnal. Those are the 2 2023 games that not only have some kind of performance issues, they're the only ones with canned benchmarks. I really wish some of like the bigger titles like RE4 or one of those guys had it, because those are games I might actually want to play at some point, but is what it is. Maybe we'll just skip that, just call Modern Warfare 2. They came out at the end of last year, but I don't know. With the way games are going this year, I think it'd be kind of nice to have one game representing that side of the argument. So still up in the air. But yeah, that's where the competitive money's going, boys. We're going to compete. You, me, as a community, we're going to do it. We're going to have some fun. And yeah, hopefully some of you guys join in, have a good time. If you've never tuned a system before, I just showed you it doesn't cost that much. It's like a $50 CPU or $60 CPU, $60 motherboard. You can get the RAM for between $40 and $60 as well for good RAM. You can buy the cheap stuff like Jay did and just faff with it if you want to. Spend even less money. You don't have to have the same graphics card. Like I said, just use whatever you got. Have some fun with it. If you blow it up, who cares, right? I've never delidded a CPU because I've never needed to. But I think we'll start with non-delidded numbers, then we'll delid, see how much extra performance that gets.